Hello everyone, welcome to the Sleeping Times channel. Tonight we bring you a story that will transport you directly to the most magnificent palace in Europe, where you will discover how absolute splendor coexisted with realities you would never imagine. Imagine waking up in a palace where the most extreme luxury coexists with the most unexpected dirt, where incredibly expensive perfumes try to hide odors you would never imagine, where every gilded mirror reflects not only beauty, but fascinating contradictions of human nature. What if I told you that behind the most dazzling halls in history, there was a world of basic needs, human vulnerabilities, and realities that brutally contrasted with all that magnificence? Can you imagine what it would be like to live in a place where appearance was everything, but where reality asserted itself in surprising and, sometimes, embarrassing ways? Welcome to Versailles, where beauty and reality danced an impossible waltz, creating a human spectacle that reveals much about who we are, even today. If you like stories that move, surprise, and make you think about how we live today, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and activate the notification bell so you never miss anything. Let me know in the comments where you are watching from and what time it is there, and tell me, have you ever wondered what contradictions our own era carries? And remember, every week, we bring new historical adventures and incredible reflections waiting to inspire you. Are you ready to embark on this journey through the perfumed corridors and raw realities of the French court? Then, make yourself comfortable, turn off the lights if you want a more immersive experience, and prepare to discover how Versailles teaches us about the eternal dance between appearance and essence that defines the human experience. The morning sun slowly penetrates through the enormous windows of the Palace of Versailles, its golden rays dancing on the mirrors of the famous Hall of Mirrors. It is the year 1685, and the greatest symbol of French royal power awakens to another day of apparent splendor. The first lights reveal the intricate details of the frescoes on the ceiling, where painted angels seem to float eternally among clouds of gold and celestial blue. In the royal chambers, the morning ritual has already begun. Dozens of courtiers await in perfumed antechambers, their silk and velvet attire carefully arranged during the early hours by a legion of servants. The air carries the scent of rosewater and perfumed powders, a constant attempt to mask other less noble odors that permeate even the most luxurious corridors of the palace. The walls, clad in pink and gold marble, reflect the morning light, creating an almost celestial atmosphere. Every surface was designed to impress, from the hand-carved furniture by master artisans to the tapestries that tell stories of military glories. The parquet floor, with its geometric patterns in exotic woods, creaks softly under the steps of the first courtiers moving through the corridors. In the gardens, gardeners work silently since before dawn, trimming every leaf of the boxwood hedges that form perfect designs when viewed from the palace windows. The dew still glistens on the rose petals, and the fresh morning air carries the scent of lavender and jasmine growing in geometrically perfect flower beds. But even at this pristine hour of the day, some details reveal the reality behind the facade. Servants discreetly carry buckets and basins, removing the night's waste from chambers that, however luxurious, lack what we would today consider basic sanitary facilities. The contrast is subtle, but present. Absolute beauty coexisting with very earthly human needs. The garden fountains begin to spout crystal clear water, a spectacle that cost fortunes in hydraulic engineering. The gentle sound of running water mixes with the first bird songs, creating a natural symphony that cradles the court's awakening. It is a moment of peace before the bustle that will take over the palace in the coming hours. In the kitchens, intense activity is already buzzing. Hundreds of staff prepare meals that will feed thousands of people throughout the day. The aroma of fresh bread and exotic spices begins to spread through the service corridors, contrasting with the less pleasant smell emanating from areas where the previous night's leftovers still await removal. The first rays of sun also illuminate the stables, where hundreds of thoroughbred horses await another day of rides and hunts. Their hooves rhythmically tap against the stone floor, creating a soft percussion that echoes through the inner courtyards. Even here, ostentation is present. Intricately worked leather harnesses with silver and gold buckles await the noble riders. The chimneys begin to release their first smokes of the day, carrying into the clear morning sky the traces of the stoves that heat water for baths and prepare food. It is a silent ballet of smoke that rises over the slate roofs, disappearing into the infinite blue of the French sky. Slowly, Versailles awakens to another day where magnificence and human reality will dance together in a complex choreography that defines life in Europe's most powerful court. The palace breathes, lives, and pulses, preparing to embrace another journey of splendor and contradictions. In the private chambers, one of the court's most elaborate rituals begins: the morning toilette. This is not simply the act of getting dressed, but a complex ceremony that can last hours and involves dozens of people. The ladies-in-waiting move like dancers in a rehearsed choreography, each with her specific function in this theatre of vanity. Chinese porcelain basins, decorated with blue and gold floral motifs, are carefully filled with warm water, perfumed with violet and bergamot essences. The bathing ritual, when it happens, is a rare and ceremonial event. Most courtiers prefer dry cleaning, using perfumed cloths and aromatic powders to mask the body's natural odours. Polished silver mirrors reflect faces that are true works of art in progress. Layers of white rice powder cover the skin, creating a ghostly pallor that is considered the height of elegance. Small flies, black velvet beauty marks, are strategically glued to the face to enhance the skin's whiteness and add a touch of sensual mystery. Wigs, true hair sculptures, await on carved wooden stands. Some can weigh several kilograms and are built on wire frames, filled with horsehair, human hair, and even wool. The process of putting them on requires skill and patience, as a poorly fitted wig can completely ruin a courtier's appearance. Perfumes are applied generously, not just out of vanity, but out of practical necessity. Alcohol-based colognes, musk and amber essences are sprayed onto clothes and skin. The sweet, penetrating aroma of these perfumes serves as an olfactory barrier against the less pleasant odors that permeate even the most luxurious chambers. Undergarments, when they exist, are simple linen pieces that are changed infrequently. Over them, layers upon layers of precious fabrics, silk chemises, rigid corsets that mold the body into ideal shapes, and skirts with whalebone structures that can measure meters in circumference. Shoes, true masterpieces of shoemaking, are made of embroidered silks and soft leather, with heels that can reach 10 centimeters in height. Walking elegantly on the palace's uneven floors becomes an art in itself. The feet, often bruised and sore, are an accepted sacrifice in the name of beauty and social status. Jewels complete the transformation. Pearl necklaces that weigh on the neck, earrings that sway with every head movement, rings that adorn each finger. Each piece tells a story of power, wealth, and social position. The sparkle of diamonds and rubies competes with the natural light entering through the windows, creating colourful reflections that dance across the walls. Throughout this entire process, whispered conversations flow among the ladies-in-waiting. Gossip about other courtiers, comments on kingdom politics, speculation about who is in or out of royal favour. These conversations are as important as the dressing ritual itself, as it is through them that information circulates through the court. When the ritual is finally complete, the result is a figure that seems to have stepped out of a painting, artificial, majestic, and completely disconnected from the physical reality of the human body that resides beneath all these layers of fabric, powder, and perfume. It is a transformation that perfectly symbolizes the spirit of Versailles. Appearance triumphing over substance, art superseding nature. The corridors of Versailles transform into true stages, where a complex and fascinating social ballet unfolds. Every step, every bow, every exchanged glance is part of an unwritten, yet perfectly understood choreography by all inhabitants of this miniature city. The sound of heels on the marble echoes rhythmically, creating a peculiar music that cradles the palace's mornings. The galleries, with their painted ceilings depicting the glories of the kingdom, serve as a backdrop for seemingly casual encounters that are, in fact, carefully orchestrated. Courtiers strategically position themselves near doors through which the king is expected to pass, hoping for a nod, a smile, or, with luck, a few words that can elevate or destroy a political career. Protocol governs every movement. Who can speak first? Who must yield passage? How to greet people of different hierarchies. A duke does not walk the same way as a marquis, and a duchess carries herself differently from a baroness. These subtleties are constantly observed and judged by trained eyes that do not forgive a social misstep. Conversations flow in refined French, punctuated by Latin and Italian expressions that demonstrate erudition. Seemingly frivolous topics, the quality of a fabric, the cut of a dress, the provenance of a jewel, carry deep political meanings. Every comment can be an alliance offered, a rivalry declared, or valuable information shared. But behind this choreographed elegance, less glamorous realities are present. The smell of unwashed bodies mixes with expensive perfumes, creating a complex and not always pleasant olfactory atmosphere. The long corridors, despite their beauty, lack adequate sanitary facilities, forcing courtiers into creative and not always dignified solutions. The windows open to the gardens bring fresh air, but also reveal other aspects of palace life. Servants can be seen discreetly emptying chamber pots into distant flower beds, a reality that brutally contrasts with the sophistication of the salons. Human nature, with all its basic needs, persists even in Europe's most refined environment. The Persian and Oriental carpets adorning the floors are not just decorative, they also serve to muffle sounds and absorb odors. Their vibrant colors and intricate patterns tell stories of distant lands, but also hide stains and dirt that accumulate over the days. Cleaning, even in this magnificent palace, is a constant challenge. Small groups form and disband constantly, like clouds moving across the sky. A whispered piece of information here, a significant glance there, a forced smile yonder, all are part of the political game that never ceases. The court is a living organism that breathes intrigues, ambitions, and constantly shifting alliances. Servants move almost invisibly among the nobles, carrying messages, serving refreshments, and maintaining the illusion that everything functions magically. Their impeccable uniforms contrast with the sweat that trickles beneath their heavy fabrics as they work tirelessly to keep the Versailles machine running without apparent flaws. As the morning progresses, the ballet of the corridors intensifies. More courtiers arrive from their chambers, more conversations intertwine, more glances cross. It is a hypnotic spectacle of elegance and artificiality, where each participant is simultaneously actor and audience in this perpetual theatre of courtly life. The gardens of Versailles stretch out like an infinite green carpet, dotted with explosions of colour that change with the seasons. On this summer morning, roses bloom in shades of pink, red and white, their petals still damp with dew that glistens like tiny diamonds under the golden light. The air carries a symphony of aromas: lavender, jasmine, honeysuckle, and the sweet scent of flowering lime trees. The white gravel paths meander between geometrically perfect flower beds, each curve calculated to create perspectives that impress and delight. Boxwood hedges trimmed into fantastic shapes, spheres, pyramids, stylized animals, demonstrate human mastery over wild nature. It is a domesticated, controlled nature, molded to serve the aesthetic whims of the court. The fountains spout crystal-clear water in elaborate patterns, creating aquatic music that blends with the birdsong. The great fountain of Apollo, with its gilded figures representing the sun god emerging from the waters, symbolizes the royal power radiating throughout the kingdom. The sound of running water has a hypnotic effect, inviting contemplation and daydreaming. Courtiers stroll slowly along the paths, their colourful clothes contrasting with the green of the lawns. Ladies carry silk parasols to protect their skin from sunlight, which was considered vulgar and detrimental to aristocratic pallor. Their dresses brush softly against the plants, collecting pollen and small leaves that would later need to be carefully removed. Sculpted marble benches offer resting places strategically positioned to provide the best views. Here, intimate conversations unfold under the apparent protection of nature, but always with the awareness that indiscreet ears might be hidden behind every bush. The gardens are an open-air stage where the dramas of the court continue to unfold. But even in this carefully constructed paradise, reality asserts itself in unexpected ways. The palace's sewage system, inadequate for the population it housed, occasionally released unpleasant odors that competed with the perfume of the flowers. Gardeners constantly worked to mask these intrusions of reality with natural incense and strategically placed aromatic plants. The more distant groves served as a refuge for more intimate needs. Small, elegant structures, disguised as Greek temples or Chinese pavilions, concealed primitive sanitary facilities. Even here, aesthetics prevailed over functionality, with elaborate decorations attempting to dignify basic bodily functions. Royal peacocks majestically walk across the lawns, their iridescent tails fanned out in spectacular displays. These exotic birds, imported at great cost, symbolize the wealth and power that could bring beauty from any corner of the world to Versailles. Their shrill cries, however, served as a reminder that even beauty could be unsettling. Glass greenhouses housed tropical plants that would never survive the French climate. Rare orchids, exotic fruits, and spices grew in artificially controlled environments, demonstrating once again the triumph of human will over natural limitations. The air inside these greenhouses was warm and humid, laden with intense and almost intoxicating aromas. As the sun rises higher in the sky, the gardens reveal themselves in all their planned glory. Every view was designed to impress, every scent calculated to seduce, every sound orchestrated to enchant. It is an artificial world of absolute beauty, where nature has been transformed into living art, but where human reality, with all its imperfections, continues to manifest itself in subtle and inevitable ways. The grand dining hall of Versailles transforms into a theatre where dining transcends mere nutritional necessity to become pure spectacle. Polished mahogany tables stretch for meters, covered with hand-embroidered linen tablecloths with gold threads. Sèvres porcelain, with its delicate blue and gold designs, reflects the light of hundreds of candles dancing in crystal chandeliers. The lunch ritual begins long before the food reaches the tables. Uniformed servants move in perfect synchronicity, each knowing their exact role in this culinary symphony. Solid silver platters are warmed over discreet braziers, while rare wines are decanted into crystal vessels that capture and refract light like liquid prisms. The dishes served are true edible works of art. Roasted swans reassembled with their plumes, peacocks presented as if still alive, fruits carved into fantastic shapes, and sweets molded like precious jewels. Each culinary creation tells a story, represents an allegory, or honors some aspect of royal glory. Food becomes language, symbol, and entertainment. Exotic spices, Ceylon cinnamon, Madagascar pepper, Persian saffron, perfume the air with aromas that speak of distant empires and trade routes controlled by France. Every pinch of these seasonings represents fortune spent and power projected beyond European borders. Taste becomes a way to experience the world without leaving Versailles. But behind this culinary opulence, less appetizing realities hide. The kitchens, located in distant basements away from the main halls, are hot, poorly ventilated environments where hundreds of cooks work in precarious conditions. The transport of dishes through long corridors means that food often arrives lukewarm or cold at the nobles' tables. Food preservation without adequate refrigeration is a constant challenge. Meats might be starting to spoil under their elaborate sauces, and fruits might hide worms beneath their perfectly polished skins. The strong seasonings and complex sauces serve not only to impress the palate, but also to mask the flavors of incipient deterioration. Hygiene habits during meals reflect the contradictions of the era. Forks, still a relatively recent novelty, are used with some ceremony, but many dishes are still consumed with hands. Fine linen napkins are changed frequently, but the hands that touch the food are not always perfectly clean. Conversations during meals flow like rivers of information and intrigue. Political alliances are forged over platters of oysters, state secrets are whispered between sips of champagne, and destinies are decided while elaborate sweets are savoured. The table becomes a diplomatic battlefield where every word is weighed and every gesture observed. Musicians positioned in elevated galleries provide a soundtrack for this perpetual banquet. Their soft melodies blend with the sounds of cutlery against porcelain, murmured conversations, and crystalline laughter. The music serves to mask private conversations and create an atmosphere of refinement that elevates the gastronomic experience to almost spiritual levels. When the meals finally come to an end, the cleaning ritual begins. Perfumed waters are brought in silver basins for hand washing, warm towels are offered, and aromatic pastilles are distributed to freshen breath. It is a process that acknowledges the physical realities of eating, but transforms them into yet another opportunity to demonstrate refinement and elegance. Far from public view, the private chambers of Versailles reveal a more intimate and, paradoxically, rawer side of court life. Here, in personal rooms decorated with oriental silks and furniture carved by master artisans, the mask of perfection can finally be removed, revealing the human vulnerabilities hidden behind public splendor. The alcoves, protected by embroidered velvet curtains, house monumental beds that are true altars of aristocratic rest. Goose-down mattresses, Irish linen sheets, and ermine covers create nests of luxury where bodies tired of keeping up appearances can finally relax. But even here, comfort has its limits. The mattresses, rarely aired, could harbour unwanted insects. Chests of exotic wood hold intimate secrets. Carefully folded love letters, miniature portraits of secret lovers, bottles of remedies for ailments that cannot be publicly admitted. Secret drawers hide jewels of sentimental value, emergency money, and, occasionally, subtle poisons to eliminate political or romantic rivals. Private mirrors reflect faces free from the elaborate makeup of public life. Here, wrinkles can be examined with concern, skin imperfections can be treated with homemade ointments, and true age can be confronted away from the court's judging eyes. It is a moment of brutal honesty with oneself that contrasts violently with the artificiality of the salons. Private sanitary facilities, when they exist, are elaborate attempts to dignify basic bodily needs. Perforated chairs decorated like thrones, hand-painted porcelain chamber pots, and bidets ornamented with floral motifs transform natural functions into almost artistic rituals. But the absence of adequate sewage systems means that unpleasant odors are constant companions. Personal servants, bound by oaths of discretion, witness moments of weakness that must never be revealed. They see their masters weeping from political frustration, suffering from venereal diseases contracted in romantic escapades, or simply battling the melancholy that can afflict even the most privileged. This forced intimacy creates complex bonds of mutual dependence. Private fireplaces not only warm bodies, but also serve to burn incriminating evidence. Traitors' letters, drafts of seditious poems, and embarrassing financial documents feed the flames that dance on cold nights. The fire becomes a silent confessor, consuming secrets that could destroy reputations. Small private altars, decorated with religious images and sacred relics, offer spiritual solace in a world dominated by earthly ambitions. Here, sincere prayers are whispered by souls who may publicly appear cynical or calculating. Faith, even if private, offers a refuge from the constant pressures of court life. Private baths, when taken, are elaborate events involving marble tubs, heated by braziers and waters perfumed with essential oils. But the frequency of these baths is limited by the medical belief of the time that water could weaken the body and open pores to diseases. Body cleanliness relied more on perfumed cloths and aromatic powders. In the silent hours of dawn, when the palace finally sleeps, these private chambers breathe with the tranquility of those who can, momentarily, abandon the constant performance. It is here that the true humanity of the courtiers is revealed. Vulnerable, imperfect, and surprisingly similar to our own, despite all the centuries and luxuries that separate us. The grand ballroom of Versailles lights up with the glow of 1,000 candles as afternoon turns into night. Baccarat crystal chandeliers hang like artificial constellations, each facet reflecting and multiplying the light to create an almost magical atmosphere. The parquet floor, polished until it gleams like a mirror, awaits the dancing steps that will transform this space into a stage of elegance and seduction. Orchestras tune their instruments in elevated galleries, creating a melodic cacophony that gradually organizes into perfect harmonies. Violins, flutes, oboes, and harps prepare to provide the soundtrack for this evening of social spectacle. Music is not just entertainment, but language. Each melody carries political meanings. Each rhythm suggests alliances or rivalries. Courtiers make their entrances like actors arriving on the main stage. Each appearance is carefully timed to create maximum impact. Arriving too early demonstrates social anxiety. Arriving too late can be interpreted as disrespect. Perfect timing is an art that separates true masters of etiquette from mere aspirants. The ladies' dresses transform into textile architectures that defy the laws of physics. Skirts that extend for meters, supported by whalebone and wire structures, create silhouettes that resemble mobile sculptures. Every movement must be calculated to avoid disasters. A too narrow doorway, a too deep curtsy, or a false step can result in devastating public embarrassment. The dances follow strict codes that go far beyond mere choreography. Who dances with whom, when, and for how long are decisions laden with political significance. A prolonged waltz might suggest a blossoming romance. An avoided contradance could indicate a broken alliance. Dance steps become diplomatic steps in a game where every movement is observed and interpreted. But behind this choreographed elegance, less glamorous realities manifest themselves. Tight corsets make breathing difficult, causing frequent fainting spells that are discreetly attributed to female sensitivity. High-heeled shoes, a recent fashion novelty, cause excruciating pain that must be endured with graceful smiles. Beauty, literally, hurts. The heat generated by hundreds of moving bodies, lit candles, and fireplaces needed to warm. The vast hall creates a suffocating atmosphere. Generously applied perfumes mix with inevitable sweat, creating a complex and not always pleasant olfactory atmosphere. Fans become not just elegant accessories, but practical necessities for survival. The intervals between dances offer opportunities for strategic conversations. Small groups form in the corners of the hall, where conspiratorial whispers are exchanged under the guise of comments about the music or compliments on outfits. Valuable information circulates like currency, and a well-placed piece of gossip can be worth more than gold. Servants discreetly circulate with trays of refreshments, rare wines, exotic liqueurs, and perfumed waters to refresh palates parched by dancing and constant conversation. These moments of pause allow social masks to be momentarily adjusted, alliances to be whispered, and next, moves in the political game to be planned. When the night of dancing finally comes to an end, the participants withdraw like actors leaving the stage after a successful performance. Sore feet, sweat-soaked clothes, and faces tired from smiling are the prices paid for another night of maintaining appearances. But tomorrow, the spectacle will begin again, because in Versailles, life is a perpetual performance where ceasing to act means ceasing to exist socially. When the main candles are extinguished and Versailles plunges into the nocturnal gloom, a parallel world awakens in the palace's shadows. Corridors that during the day echoed with elegant conversations now whisper with darker secrets. It is the hour for clandestine meetings, political conspiracies, and forbidden romances that flourish far from the vigilant eyes of official etiquette. Secret passages, built during the palace's construction to allow servants to move invisibly, now serve more intriguing purposes. Courtiers glide through these narrow tunnels, their flickering candles casting dancing shadows on the bare stone walls. the contrast with the gilded halls is brutal. Here, the raw reality of the architecture reveals itself without decorative disguises. In dimly lit antechambers, letters are written by the light of solitary candles. Dark ink flows over cream paper, carrying messages that can alter political destinies or arrange impossible daytime romantic encounters. Red wax seals secrets that travel through the hands of discreet messengers, creating a communication network parallel to the official one. The nocturnal gardens transform into romantic settings where darkness offers protection for passions that defy social conventions. Pavilions hidden among groves become refuges for lovers who risk reputations and, sometimes, lives for a few moments of genuine intimacy. The night perfume of the flowers mixes with the sighs and whispers of hearts beating beyond the control of reason. But the night also reveals less poetic aspects of palace life. Without the daylight to disguise them, the odors accumulated during the day become more noticeable. Poorly ventilated corridors carry the smell of unwashed bodies, spoiled food, and human waste that the inadequate sanitary systems cannot efficiently process. Night servants work silently to maintain the illusion of perfection that will be needed the next day. They clean stains, remove debris, replenish candles, and prepare the settings for another day of spectacle. Their work is invisible but essential, like that of backstage actors who keep the play running without the audience noticing their efforts. In the subterranean kitchens, ovens remain lit throughout the night, preparing the breads and sweets that will be served at breakfast. The constant heat and humidity create an almost tropical environment where cooks work in shifts, their faces gleaming with sweat as they create the delicacies that will feed the court the next day. Private chambers reveal themselves as islands of intimacy where masks can finally be removed. Here, tears of frustration can be shed, physical pains can be treated without embarrassment, and moments of human vulnerability can be experienced away from judging eyes. Darkness offers a freedom that daylight denies. Guards make their silent rounds, their lanterns creating moving circles of light that momentarily reveal dark corners before moving on. They are the guardians not only of physical security, but also of the secrets that the night harbors. Their discretion is bought with gold coins and veiled threats. As the hours advance towards dawn, Versailles prepares for another cycle of splendor and contradiction. The night, with all its secrets and raw realities, gradually gives way to the preparation for another day of public performance. It is an eternal cycle where truth and appearance dance a complex waltz, each taking the lead at different moments, but never truly separating. In the early hours of dawn, when Versailles breathes at the slower rhythm of sleep, it is possible to perceive the invisible weight that each inhabitant of the palace carries on their shoulders. These are not crowns of gold and precious stones, but burdens made of expectations, social obligations, and the constant pressure to maintain an impeccable public image. Every courtier is, in their own way, a gilded prisoner of their social position. The silent chambers hold mute witnesses to the tensions that accumulate during days of constant performance. Mirrors reflect faces marked by the fatigue of smiling when one would prefer to cry, of agreeing when one wishes to disagree, of appearing happy when melancholy corrodes the soul. The social mask, however beautiful, becomes heavy when it can never be fully removed. In the secret drawers of ornate furniture, unsent letters reveal thoughts that can never be expressed publicly, declarations of impossible love, criticisms of the system that sustains them but also imprisons them, confessions of doubts about their own faith or political loyalty. These yellowed papers are the only safe confidants in a world where every word can be used as a weapon. Physical health pays a high price for court life. Tight corsets deform internal organs, inadequate shoes cause foot deformities, and the lack of real exercise, for walking in the gardens does not replace genuine physical activity, weakens bodies that must appear eternally young and vigorous. Court physicians prescribe bloodletting and purgatives that often worsen conditions that could be treated with simpler methods. Food, however elaborate, does not always provide adequate nutrition. Dishes prepared hours before being served lose essential vitamins, and the preference for refined foods over fresh, simple produce creates nutritional deficiencies that manifest in rotten teeth, pale skin, and reduced energy. Culinary ostentation sacrifices health on the altar of visual impression. Personal relationships become minefields where genuine affection must be constantly weighed against political advantage. Friendships are calculated, romances are strategic, and even parental love can be influenced by considerations of inheritance and social position. Emotional spontaneity becomes a luxury few can afford. Psychological isolation is perhaps the cruelest price of life in Versailles. Constantly surrounded by people, courtiers often feel profoundly alone. The impossibility of showing vulnerability, of admitting ignorance, or of expressing unconventional opinions creates an existential solitude that no amount of luxury can alleviate. Financial pressure, ironically, afflicts even the most privileged. Maintaining the appearances required by court life costs fortunes. Clothes that must be constantly renewed, expensive gifts to maintain alliances, bets on games that are more social obligations than entertainment. Many nobles live constantly in debt, trapped in a cycle of spending they cannot stop without losing status. The constant fear of falling from grace hangs over everyone like an invisible cloud. A misinterpreted word, an inappropriate gesture, an alliance with the wrong person can result in social exile that is, for many, worse than physical death. This constant anxiety corrodes inner peace and transforms each day into a performance where error is not tolerated. When sleep finally comes, even dreams offer no complete escape. Nightmares of public humiliations, of losing royal favor, of compromising secrets being discovered visit tired minds. Rest becomes only a temporary pause in a life that is, essentially, a constant war for social survival, in an environment that is simultaneously the most privileged and the most dangerous in Europe. As the sun sets over Versailles, painting the palace windows golden and casting long shadows across the geometrically perfect gardens, it is as if time stands still for a moment. This magical instant, repeated day after day for decades, reveals the paradoxical nature of this court that believes itself eternal, but carries within it the seeds of its own transformation. The last lights of the day illuminate the tired faces of courtiers preparing for another night of ceremonies. There is something melancholic in this daily ritual, the artificial beauty that must be constantly rebuilt, the social masks that must be readjusted, the performances that must continue regardless of the real emotional state of their actors. It is a theatre that knows no intermissions or holidays. In the mirrors of the Hall of Mirrors, infinite reflections create the illusion of a world that stretches forever, where elegant courtiers multiply to the horizon. But these same mirrors also reveal the inexorable passage of time, wrinkles that deepen, hair that whitens, postures that bend under the weight of years and social responsibilities. Generations succeed each other in Versailles like waves breaking on the shore, each bringing its own ambitions, its own secrets, its own tragedies. Young people arrive dazzled by the palace's magnificence, gradually learn its complex rules, reach the peak of their influence, and eventually give way to new faces who will repeat the same eternal cycle. Nature, despite all attempts to control it, continues to follow its own rhythms. Seasons change in the gardens. Flowers are born and die, trees grow and are pruned, and rain occasionally washes the gilded facades, momentarily revealing the bare stone beneath all the decoration. It is a subtle but persistent reminder that even Versailles is subject to natural laws. Servants grow old, serving the same families, witnessing births, marriages, intrigues, and deaths. They are the living memory of the palace, guarding secrets that span generations. Their calloused hands and faces marked by labor contrast with the artificial skin of the nobles, reminding us that behind all magnificence, there is real human work and genuine sweat. The traditions that seem immutable actually evolve constantly. Fashions change, protocols adapt, New technologies are discreetly incorporated into palace life. What appears eternal is, in reality, a living organism that slowly transforms, adapting to the internal and external pressures that constantly challenge it. In the palace libraries, books gather dust while recording the history being made daily in the salons. Future chronicles will read about this period as a specific moment in time, with a beginning, middle, and end. But for those living within this reality, each day seems part of an eternity that will never change. The music echoing through the corridors carries echoes of past melodies and premonitions of future harmonies. Court composers create works they hope will outlive their creators, seeking an immortality through art that physical life cannot offer. Every note played is simultaneously a present moment and a message for the future. When night finally completely covers Versailles, and the last candles are extinguished in the private chambers, the palace breathes like a sleeping organism. In the darkness, it is possible to imagine that this life will continue forever, that tomorrow will be exactly like today, that the contradictions between beauty and filth, between appearance and reality, between power and human vulnerability, will remain eternally suspended in this impossible balance. But time, that silent judge, continues its inexorable march, preparing transformations that not even the magnificence of Versailles will be able to prevent. As we contemplate this day at the court of Versailles, we are confronted with a fascinating paradox that echoes through the centuries to our present day. Here was a society that had reached the pinnacle of aesthetic sophistication and cultural refinement, yet coexisted daily with realities that we would today consider primitive and even repugnant. This contradiction between appearance and essence is not merely a historical curiosity, but a mirror that reflects eternal aspects of human nature. How many times, in our own era, do we not construct elaborate facades to hide less glamorous realities? Are our social networks, with their carefully curated images, not a modern version of the mirrors of Versailles, reflecting only what we wish others to see? The French court's obsession with hygiene through perfumes and powders, instead of actual cleaning with water, finds surprising parallels in our contemporary society. How many products promise to mask problems instead of solving them? How many modern solutions are essentially sophisticated versions of Versailles' perfumes, covering symptoms without treating causes? Versailles' social system, with its rigid hierarchy and constant performances, may seem distant from our democratic reality. But looking more closely, we realize that we still live in a world where appearances matter enormously, where unwritten social codes dictate behaviors, and where the pressure to maintain a public image can be overwhelming. The complex relationship between luxury and discomfort that characterize court life also resonates in our times. How many times do we sacrifice real comfort for apparent status? How many of our choices are dictated more by the impression they will make on others than by our genuine satisfaction? Perhaps the deepest lesson Versailles offers us is the understanding that every society, however advanced it considers itself, carries its own contradictions and blind spots. The 17th century courtiers could not imagine that their hygiene practices would be considered repugnant by future generations, just as we probably cannot anticipate how aspects of our own civilization will be judged by those who come after us. The beauty of Versailles remains undeniable, as does its historical and cultural importance. But its true greatness perhaps lies not only in its architectural magnificence or its political influence, but in its ability to teach us about the complexity of the human experience. Here, amidst perfumed gardens and gilded halls, men and women lived lives full of ambitions, fears, joys, and sorrows that transcend the particularities of their era. As we close this day in Versailles, we take with us not only images of splendor and contradiction, but a deeper understanding that humanity, in all its eras and circumstances, constantly seeks to balance high ideals with earthly realities. And in this eternal quest, we find not only the history of a 17th century French court, but a timeless reflection of our own human journey, with all its beauties and imperfections. its aspirations and limitations. Ultimately, Versailles teaches us that true nobility does not reside in the ability to hide our human imperfections, but in our ability to create beauty and meaning despite them. The courtiers who walked through those gilded corridors were fundamentally people like us, seeking love, recognition, purpose, and happiness within the limitations of their time and circumstances. When we visit the restored gardens of Versailles today, or contemplate its preserved halls, we see not just a museum of the past, but a laboratory of the human condition. Each room tells a story about our infinite capacity to transform basic needs into elaborate rituals, to elevate the mundane to the sublime, and to find dignity even in the most contradictory circumstances. And so, as we prepare for our own night's rest, we can reflect on how our own lives balance appearance and reality, comfort and sacrifice, aspiration and limitation. Perhaps the true lesson of Versailles is that perfection lies not in eliminating these contradictions, but in embracing them as an integral part of the human experience, finding beauty not despite our imperfections, but through them. May this journey through the perfumed corridors and raw realities of Versailles inspire us to look at our own era with the same compassion and understanding that we hope future generations will have when judging our own paradoxes and contradictions. For in the end, we are all courtiers in our own Versailles, navigating between ideals and realities, creating beauty where we can, and finding humanity every step of the way.